Hi, and welcome to this session on whole numbers. Today we are going to look at how to apply our knowledge of place value to put numbers in order. We're then going to look at negative numbers, and then we're going to look at how to add and subtract large numbers without a calculator. Before we start, it's good for you to assess what is your starting point. So what I want you to do is I want you to read this exam question, and then I want you to rate yourself on how you think you would do if you got this question in your exam. So the question is, a music festival sells tickets on its website. There are 120,000 tickets for sale. And then there's this article for Festival News. 118,200 tickets were sold in the first hour. How many tickets are still for sale after the first hour? You must show your workings. This is a 3-mark question. Now, where are you with this exam question? Okay. Would you be able to get off the starting block? Okay. Do you know what that first step is? Okay. Maybe, you're feeling pretty confident you could get most of the marks, 2 out of 3 marks here. If you are already rating yourself here, okay, that you would get 4 marks from this question, maybe you don't actually need this session and you can go look at some of my other lessons instead. Because what I want for today is if you are on the starting block still, or you're down here with this bronze medal, we're going to push you up to silver or even push you up to gold today. Let's make a start. First of all, we are going to look at place value. So place value is a topic that you will know already. It's this idea that wherever we place a digit, okay, whatever column that digit's in, it changes the value of what that number is. For example, if I place a number 5 in my ones column here, that's just the number 5. But if I place a 5 in my tens column, 5 tens, okay, that's different from 5 ones. 5 tens is 50. Okay. Wherever I place my 5, that's going to change the amount. And I'm filling any gaps I have with a 0. Okay, so that's, you know how this works. This is how we've used numbers. If you can count, you can do place value. Okay. What tends to throw people in the exam is when we have those large numbers, because if we're struggling to kind of read out these large numbers, that's already an immediate barrier to be able to like process the question and answer the exam question. So reading large numbers isn't that tricky once you know the rule, but you kind of get to an age where people just assume you know how to do it. Okay, but you actually probably weren't taught this since like early primary school. Okay, so if you missed that day at school, perhaps you were ill, then you may have skipped this lesson, and then everyone seems to know the rules about how to say a number, and you don't. So we're going to teach you now. We're going to go through these examples here. So I've got this number here, 12365. Let's write it in my columns. So I'm going to write it from this way around, just so I know where to start my number. Okay, so what you're going to do is you are going to break your number into groups of 3 digits, starting from the right-hand side. Okay, so that means is I'm going to count in, I'm going to start at the right and I'm going to count in 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to place myself a comma here. Okay, to separate out like my thousands group from my hundreds group. Now your second step is whatever's in your thousands group, you're just going to ignore the rest of the number. You're just going to read this bit. So here we have the number 12. So what we would say is we say the number 12 and then the word thousand. Okay. Then we move on to the next group and we just read the number we have here, 365. So altogether, this is 12,365. Okay. We can repeat the process for an even large number. So our next question is, how would you say this number out loud? Okay, so I'm going to fill it in. 4502760. Okay, again, I am going to start from the right-hand side. I'm going to count in 3 digits, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put a comma here. I still have more digits to go, right? So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to put another comma here. Okay, now we've got a few groups going on. This is our millions group. So whatever number we have here, we say that number, then we're going to say the word million. So here, there's just the number 4 there, so this is 4 million. We move on to our thousands group. We just read out this number here. We're going to ignore the rest of the digits. So here we have 502,000. And then lastly, our hundreds group, you just read as normal, 760. So altogether, this is 4,502,760. It's as easy as that. As I say, when we can read these questions and we feel confident with reading these numbers out loud, it can help us process those tricky exam questions because they are going to try to make it tricky for you. Okay, it's now time for you to practice. So what I want you to do is I want you to have a go at each of these questions. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to pause this video and then you're going to unpause it when you're ready to hear me talk through the answers. Okay. So, okay, let's go through these answers. In question 1, we need to identify the place value of the bolded blue digits in the following numbers. So I've already done the first one for you. That 5 here means 500. Here we have a 2 in the tens column. That's the same as 20. In this number here, we have an 8 in the thousands column. So that's the same as 8,000. You may have noticed a pattern that to find the value of the digit, you just ignore what comes before and you replace every digit afterwards with a 0. So to follow this along, for this 5, I don't even need to know it's in the 500,000s column. I just know it's 5 and I'm replacing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 digits with those zeros to get 500,000. And finally, here that's 7. If I replace the rest of the numbers afterwards with zeros, I get 7 million. For question 2, it says write the following numbers in the standard form. So that just means write the numbers like how we normally would write them. Or in other words, you can just do the addition, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to think about my place value groups, okay? And it's going to help me out. I am going to first of all start off with my thousands. I can see I've got 80,000 and 7,000. So altogether, I know in my thousands group, I've got 80 plus 7. So that is 87,000. So I'm going to write 87 and a comma. And then for the rest of it, I've got 690 and 5. So altogether, 695. This question looks complicated, but once you start, it's pretty all right. For this next sum here, I'm going to look at my thousands again. I've got 100,000, 40,000, and 9,000. So it's 100 plus 40 plus 9, 149. So I've got 149,000. I'm going to write a comma, and I'm going to see what I've got left. 450 and 3. So altogether, that is 453. Okay. Final question. We have, okay, 6,009,490. I just read those numbers out loud and the way to write it fell out on itself. But we'll break it down. How many millions do I have? Well, this is actually the only number in my millions group. So I'm just going to write 6 and a comma for my millions group. I'm then going to move to my thousands group. The only number I have in my thousands group is 9. So my next 3 digits, I just have to write the number 9 there. And I can't write my 9 in the middle digit or at the start because that would be 900,000, that would be 90,000. I just have 9,000 here. Now that my thousands group is done, I just have to finish it off with my hundreds group. I've got 490, which I can write down there. So then we have 6,009,000. Oh, that nearly messed me up that time. I'm just modeling that it's okay to make mistakes, you know? Big numbers can throw anyone because we are human with human brains. And if we're trying to rush things, it just happens, okay? This is 6,009,490. Finally, we have question 3. How do you write 40,206,052 using digits. Let's focus on our millions group. There's 40 million, so I'm going to write 40 and separate out my millions group with a comma. We'll move on to the thousands group. There are 206,000. So I'm just going to write 206 in my thousands group and place a comma. And then finally we have 52. So I have 3 more digits left. I can't just write 52 at the end because there needs to be 3 digits here. So my 52 has to go there and I fill the gap with a 0. Okay. Moving on, let's look at how we put numbers in order. So an exam may ask you to put numbers in order, either from the smallest to largest or largest to smallest. Don't let that catch you out in a question. I think most exams are quite accommodating when if the question says smallest to largest and you accidentally put it largest to smallest, provided it's in some sort of order. But we get into the habit of reading questions carefully. Okay. I know you know how to put numbers in order. If you can count, you can put numbers in order. The issue is your examiner will want to make this as tricky as possible because they are not your friend. So what they can do is they can give you numbers like this, okay, where they kind of like repeat the same digits over and over just to make it more complicated. So with these questions, just take it one step at a time, okay? And yeah, don't try to rush these because that's how you're not going to get the mark, okay? What I'd recommend doing is like putting the numbers in groups with the same number of digits, okay? So here I'm going to separate out my 3-digit numbers, which is this one and this one. And then for each group, we're going to put them in order, okay? If you kind of like stack your numbers, it's kind of easier to compare them because you just go a column at a time. So if I'm trying to find the smallest number, I'll start with these 5s. They're both the same, so I move on. 3 is smaller than 6, so I actually don't need to process the rest of the number. I know this is the smallest, and that is my next biggest. So I've already put them in order there. Okay. Next, let's move on to the 4-digit numbers. So that's 4 digits, that's 4 digits. So again, if I write them on top of each other, because they're very similar numbers, okay, I'm less likely to trip up. Again, I'm going to take a column at a time. Okay, my thousands column are the same, my hundreds column are the same. Oh, but if you look, this 5 is smaller than that 6, so I don't even have to be able to read this number out loud. I know that this number is smaller. Okay, so let me add that to our list that we have so far. So then we have 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 3, 4, 6, 5. And then finally, that just leaves this 5-digit number. I don't have to read it out loud. I can just copy it up. Make sure we're being really careful when we write this in our exam, when we type this in our exam. Because again, you don't want to like spend the time putting it in order for you not to get the mark because you made the typo. These answers are really subject to typos, so please be careful. You don't need to show any workings out for ordering numbers in the exam, which is good because I'm not really sure how I would explain it if I had to show my workings. Okay. It's now time for you to have a go. So again, pause this video, have a go at these questions, and then unpause them when you're ready to look at the answers together. Okay, for question 1, we're putting the numbers in order from smallest to largest. So I'm going to look at my 2-digit numbers first. So I can see 47 is smaller than 90. Okay, they're done. I'm then going to look at my 3-digit numbers. So I've got 143, 543, and 304. This one begins with a 1, so that must be smaller. Okay, and then we have 304 next. Okay, then we have 543. Finally, I'm going to look at my 4-digit numbers. This one starts with a 1, so that must be smaller. So 1,239 is next. And then finally, we have 6,783. Question 2, put these numbers in order from the largest to the smallest. Okay, so you see what I'm saying about exam questions that purposely are going to give you difficult numbers to read. These are really hard numbers to read because they've only used commas to separate the numbers. They haven't used commas to separate like the millions group, the hundreds group, and the thousands group and the hundreds group. So I'm going to just count my digits to see which ones are the larger numbers, or the longer numbers, I should say. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a 7-digit number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a 7-digit number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, if I'm looking for the largest numbers, I'm just going to be looking at my 7-digit numbers now. On my paper, what I'd probably do is I'd be very careful to write these up, and I'm going to stack them, okay? Because that's just going to make it easier for me to compare my place value columns. 2505 and then 242580. Okay, I'm looking for the biggest number. That 8's the biggest, so that must be the start of my list. 892590. Okay, followed by this one that starts with 4. 4760924. And I'm not taking time to process what these numbers are. I'm just working through systematically because I am a mathematician. I like to work smarter and not harder. The question's not requiring me to read it out, so why would I? Okay, you see these two numbers began with a 2, so I moved on to the next digit. That 4 is bigger than that 0, so I knew that one came next. Okay, so I've got 2,092,505, and that is all of my 7-digit numbers done. And I'm going to look at my 6-digit numbers. There are only 2 of them, and I can kind of spot which one is smaller, but I'll write them up anyway, just so I can show you. Here they are. If I'm looking for the next biggest one, it's the one that starts with a 5 instead of a 2. So it's 502255. And then 247025. And that is the whole list in order. Okay, let's jump to negative numbers now. So numbers can either be positive if they're greater than 0, or they can be negative if they are less than 0. I really recommend drawing out a number line or printing one out online to help you if you're finding these negative numbers difficult, because being able to visualize them can really help you answer them. And it's not to say that you're always going to have to rely on the number line to be able to do the negative numbers, but they're really helpful at practice. And you know what? If in your exam you need to quickly draw a number line on your paper for you to be able to answer that question, then you do that. You don't get extra marks for not making notes, okay? So do what it takes for you to be able to pass that exam. Okay, let's look at how we find the difference between negative numbers. Our first question here is find the difference between -4 and -1. So if we look at a number line, what we have is, let me just change color pen. Okay, -1's here and -4's there. And when we find the difference, okay, usually we think of that as like a minus, a take away. Okay, but it's called the difference because it's saying, okay, like how different are these numbers? How far apart are they? In other words, like how many steps would you need to take to go between them? So I start at -4, I'm taking 1, 2, 3 steps. The difference is 3. Okay. My next question is find the difference between -2 and 3. Okay. -2 is here. Okay. 3 is here. Okay. If there's you can put a positive sign in front of there, but you don't have to. If you don't see a sign in front of there, you just assume it's positive, right? How many steps does it take? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Let me show you how I'd answer this question without using a number line. If I was to find the difference between -2 and 3, okay, what I can do is I can just draw myself a rough guide. It doesn't have to be accurate, but it can just help me kind of visualize what's going on here. If I draw 0 there, I know -3 is somewhere to the left of it and 2 is somewhere to the right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a couple of jumps to see, how many steps would it take for me to do the whole thing? If I jump from -3 to 0, I know that's like 3 steps. I'm jumping 3 places. Okay? It's just whatever is like number you have here without a minus sign. Then to go from 0 to 2, I know that's 2 places. So altogether, it's 3 plus 2, which is 5 jumps. If both of your numbers are negative, like in this first question, -1 and -4, then it's like saying, okay, what's the difference between 4 and 1? Because negative numbers is like a mirror image for positive numbers. So the distance between +1 and +4 is the same difference between -1 and -4 there. Okay. One place in which we see negative numbers is in temperature. Okay. So if you're struggling to kind of like process what a negative number means, imagine that there's like a degrees sign after this. So the colder the temperature, the lower the number. Okay, so -2 is colder than 0, so -2 is smaller than 0. Okay. Another way where we see negative numbers is in your bank account. Hopefully not, but if you overspend, if you spend more money than what you have in your accounts, you're going to go into your overdraft, and your bank account will say something like, you've got -10 pounds in there because you've overspent by £10. So you can think of these negative numbers as like a debt and positive numbers as like your savings of something you have. Again, just to help you ground in the fact that these negative numbers are real numbers, okay? They seem like they're made up because we can't like physically count them. Like I can count like 1, 2, 3 apples, but they are real numbers and they do come about in everyday life, which is why you kind of need to know them for your exam. Let's have a think about how we order negative numbers. So it's very similar to what we were doing before. We're going to split them up into like the numbers which have the same groups of digits. But more than that, we are going to first of all do the negative numbers first and then the positive numbers. We're going to put this list from smallest to largest. So I know all of my smallest numbers are the ones with a negative sign in front of them. So I'm going to write them out now. So I've got minus 346, -23. I'm like writing my negative um, signs in line. That's just so I can kind of see the length of each of these numbers, okay? That wouldn't be how I would usually write them. Okay, now that I have all of my negative numbers down, I'm just going to put them in order. So I need the smallest number. Now, if you think back to the number line of the previous page, the bigger the number attached to the negative sign, the smaller it is, okay? Or you can think about it in terms of temperature. Which of these temperatures sounds the coldest? I wouldn't want to be in -879 degrees. Or another way of thinking about it, which one of these numbers would you least want your bank account to look like? I would not want to be in -879 pounds in my account. So that's the smallest number there. So I'll start my list here, -879, then -346. Okay, that's my 3-digit numbers done. I'll move on to my 2-digit numbers. Again, which number seems smaller? Would you rather have -93 pounds in your bank account or -23 pounds? I would rather have -23 pounds in my account. That means -93 is smaller. Then I've got -23. Then that just leaves -2. Then now that I've done all the negative numbers, I can do my positive numbers as normal. So I'm just going to write them out so I can kind of see the length of them. And if I stack them, I can kind of see how long they are. And it's just easier for me to identify where to go first. So I'm looking smallest to largest, right? So 8's the smallest number because it's the only 1-digit number. Okay. And then we have the next 2-digit numbers, 42 and 92. So 42 is next smallest, and then 92. That leaves our last 3-digit numbers, so 123, and then 580. And that's the whole list in order. It's now time for you to have a go at putting some negative and positive numbers in order. So again, pause this video and unpause when you're ready to review the answers. Okay, for question 1, it says put these numbers in order from smallest to largest. So again, I'm going to look at my negative numbers first. And I'm going to look at my negative 3-digit numbers first because they must be the smallest ones. I've got minus 139 and minus 983. Don't let these negative numbers throw you, okay? Minus 983 is the smallest number there. That's the number I least want my bank account to look like. Then I got minus 139. Then I'll go to the 2-digit negative numbers. Again, the bigger the number attached to the minus sign, the smaller it is. The minus 53 is next, then minus 24, and then minus 13. And then that just leaves my positive numbers, so I can switch my brain back to normal. I don't have to do any special thinking. They're all 3-digit numbers left, so this one begins with a 1. So that must be the next smallest. Then we have 424, and followed by 951. When we put these lists in order, and what I want you to do is I want you to kind of just check you've written down all of the numbers. Really common exam mistake of people missing out numbers. Okay, so I've written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers in my list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers. Okay. Second question, what's the difference between minus 12 and minus 20? Because these both have minus signs attached to them, this is the same as what's the difference between 20 and 12? Because it's like a mirror image on that number line. So 20 take away 12 is 8, and that would be your answer there. Finally, the temperature at night was minus 5 degrees C, and then the temperature in the daytime was 9 degrees C. Work out the difference between temperature at night and in the daytime. I'm going to use my thermometer here to help me out. I don't have to write every number, okay, for it to be able to help me. I just know minus 5 is somewhere down here and plus 9 is up here. Again, it's not the scale, it doesn't have to be. To jump from minus 5 to 0, I know that's 5 steps. Then to jump from 0 up to 9, I know that's 9 more steps. So altogether, it's 5 plus 9, which is 14. There's been a temperature difference of 14 degrees C. Let's look at how we add large numbers without a calculator. Okay. So part of your exam is going to be non-calculator, so we have to get comfortable with how to do these things without a calculator. The tried and true method for adding numbers without a calculator is the common method. So we're going to add 582 plus 899. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to write them on top of each other. I'm going to stack them as columns. Remember to line them up on this right-hand side because you want all your ones in line, all of your tens column in line, and all of your hundreds column in line. Okay, going to put an add sign there. And what you're going to do is you're going to start with the smallest column, so whatever's on the right-hand side, and you're going to say, okay, we've got 2 plus 9, which is 11. I can't write 11 here because that's going to look really messy in my number. So I'm going to carry that 1 and I'm going to put it, you can either put it on top or you can put it below here. I put it below. Yeah. And then in our next column, we need to add 8 plus 9 plus 1. That comes to 18. So again, I'm going to write a 1 here and the 8 there for 18. Finally, I've got 5 plus 8 plus 1, and that comes to 14. And because I've got nothing here to add up, I can just write that 1 in there straight away. So that's my answer, 1,481. It's now time for you to have a go. So again, pause this video and unpause when you're ready to hear the answers. Okay, for question 1, I've got 134 plus 597. So to add those up, stack the columns. 7 plus 4 is 11. 3 plus 9 plus 1 is 13. And I've got 5 plus 1 plus 1, which is 7. So it's 731. For question 2, I've got 13,805 plus 60,184. Remember, the order in which we add doesn't matter. So you can have the bigger number on the bottom. That's absolutely fine. I start in my ones column again. 5 plus 4 is 9, 0 plus 8 is 8, 8 plus 1 is 9, 3 plus 0 is 3, and then 6 plus 1 is 7. That answer is, I need to count in 3, put my comma there, so it's 73,989. Finally, we have 570,820 plus 40,819. This question can catch some people out. Make sure your digits are aligned on the right-hand side, okay? Because if some people put the 4 underneath the 5, but that's going to change your answer. Remember what we learned about place value. Where we place the columns matter, okay? So once I stack them correctly, same process as before. Start on the right-hand side. 0 plus 9 is 9. 2 plus 1 is 3. 8 plus 8 is 16. So I carry the 1. Put the 6 there for 16. 0 plus 0 plus 1 is 1. 7 plus 4 is 11. Carry the 1. And then 5 plus that 1 is 6. So the answer is 611,639. Let's look at subtraction now. So just like when we add, when we subtract, we're going to set up our columns the same way. So I've got 746, take away 592, just like that. We're still going to start on the right-hand side. So again, in this case, it's the ones. So I'm going to do 6, take away 2, which is 4. I'm then going to do 4, take away 9. Now, 4 take away 9 is technically -5. We've just been learning about negative numbers. However, if I write -5 here, that's going to mess up the rest of my calculation. Okay, so instead of writing a -5 there, what we are going to do is we are going to borrow from next door. So I imagine these numbers as neighbors, and this 4 says to the 7, hey, could I like borrow an egg? I imagine it to be an egg. And the 7 goes, yeah, sure, I've got 7 eggs. You can have 1. So this 4 holds that egg. You get that little 1 and becomes 14. And this 7 now becomes a 6 because they've got 6 eggs left. So now we have 14 take away 9, which we can do without going into negative numbers. 14 take away 9 is 5. That leaves with 6 here. 6 take away 5 is 1. So our answer is 154. Again, now it's time for you to have a go at that skill. So pause this video and then unpause when you're ready to hear the answers. So for question 1, we have 597 take away 439. Stack your columns just like that. 7 take away 9 is technically -2. I don't want to go into the minus numbers. So that's 7 borrows from next door and goes, hey, 9, can I have an egg? 9 goes, yep, sure, I'll become an 8. That 7 holds the egg, becomes 17. 17 take away 9 is 8. We move on. 8 take away 3 is 5. And then 5 take away 4 is 1. So the answer is 158. For question 2, we have 73,805 take away 60,184. We start with our ones column. 5 take away 4 is 1. We then have 0 take away 8, which we can't do without going to the minus numbers. So that 0 is going to borrow 1 from the 8. It becomes a 7. That 1 makes that 0 into a 10. 10 take away 8 is 2. 7 take away 1 is 6. 3 take away 0 is 3. And 7 take away 6 is 1. So the answer is 13,621. Finally, for question 3, we have 570,820 take away 40,415. Remember, I've got to keep my columns in line. I've got to keep my ones columns in line, my tens column in line, my tens or thousands column in line. So that 4 ends up underneath the 7, not underneath that 5. Let's go from the 1. 0 take away 5, I can't do without going into the negative numbers. So I'm going to borrow from that 2. The 2 becomes a 1. That 0 becomes a 10. 10 take away 5 is 5. 1 take away 1 is 0. 8 take away 4 is 4. 0 take away 0 is 0. 7 take away 4 is 3. 5 take away nothing is still 5. So that's our answer there, 530,405. Okay, that brings us back to that exam question that I gave you at the very, very start of the session. Okay, let's have a go at it now. We've done all of the steps. I think you're ready. So let's remind ourselves of the question. A music festival sells tickets on its website. There are 120,000 tickets for sale. The festival news. I was a bit sneaky at the start. I didn't read out this big number for you. Okay, but I'm sure you know it now. It's 118,200 tickets sold in the first hour. How many tickets are still for sale after the first hour? You must show your workings. It is 3 marks. What I want you to do, if you're feeling brave, you can pause the video now. See if you can answer this question. How many marks would you get? And if you are not ready for that challenge, we can go through it step by step now. Your first step is to write that starting number of tickets in digits. They have been a bit sneaky, and they have written this number using words instead of numbers. So they're testing your English skills, which I think is unfair for a maths exam, particularly if English is not your first language. So let's write out 120,000. So it's 120 and it's in my thousands group. So I'm going to put my comma there. And then there's nothing else left to the number. So I have to fill the last 3 spaces, that hundreds group, with zeros. Okay, so that's how many tickets there were to start. How many tickets are there left? So we take that starting value and then we have to remove the amount that was sold. So I'm going to minus them. Okay, so 0 take away 0 is 0. And again, 0. 0 take away 2. We can't do that. Let's borrow 1 from next door. We've run into an issue. Next door don't have any eggs for us to borrow. So this 0 then goes to its next door neighbor and goes, hey, can I borrow an egg? This 2 says, yeah, sure. That 2 becomes a 1. That 0 becomes a 10. Now this 0 says, hey, can I borrow an egg? And it's like, yeah, sure. That 10 becomes a 9. This becomes a 1. So now we have 10 take away 2, which is 8. Now we have 9 take away 8, which is 1. 1 take away 1, which is 0. 1 take away 1, which is 0. So we can kind of ignore those zeros, put my commas in. And then we can see that we have 1,800 tickets left. And that is our answer there. How did you do with that question? Okay. I want you to remind yourself of where you started, okay? Okay, I said if you were up here, this lesson wasn't for you, so hopefully those people have gone. But if you started further up down here, with that question, like, did you know what the first step was? Did you get most of the marks? Did you even get all of the marks? I want you to acknowledge the progress when you have made it, okay? If you wanted to some homework, you want to practice this a little bit more, check out the video description to grab a copy of these slides and see the suggested homework. And then finally, that just leaves me to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. If so, do give me a follow, do leave me a comment. And if you have any questions, drop that in the comment box as well. I'd love to hear from you.